Channel open. Welcome back to WeeklyTrek, a proud member of the Tricorder Transmissions podcast network and presented in partnership with TrekCore.com. I am your host, Alex Perry.
What's today's date? The date.
Today's show was recorded on September 10th, 2022, and is current through the Star Trek Lower Decks episode, Mining the Mind's Mines, so beware of spoilers. All right, let's get into the show.
Good day, Voyager, and welcome to A Briefing with Neelix. It's a catchy title, isn't it?
WeeklyTrek is a regular news show covering the biggest stories from the Star Trek franchise. We are in a new golden age of Star Trek. There are 5 television shows in production, possibly more on the way, and enough merchandise to fill the Bajoran wormhole. So stick with me, and I'll help you sort the real facts from a lot of the Dominion propaganda that you'll find online. But I can't do this alone, and my guest this week is returning guest, host of the Trek Ranks podcast, and making his very first appearance on the Weekly Trek podcast in 156 episodes. It's Jim Morehouse. Jim, welcome back to Weekly Trek.
Good to be back. It's been a while. It's been a while, but happy to be here and talk about Star Trek Day.
All right, Jim. Well, you know, at this point, I would normally ask you what's got you feeling good about Star Trek this week, but we will just assume that both of our answers to that question are the same, that being Star Trek Day. So instead, I know that you have the opportunity to attend Star Trek Day in person. So tell me, what was it like this year?
Yeah, the red carpet was really, really great. Super dynamic. Lots of, just for me, seeing the Strange New Worlds people at an event for the first time, because I've been able to cover a lot of these for TrekCore over the years. So it's the first time Strange New Worlds has been there. And yeah, the bulk of everybody except basically Anson Mount was there. So interviewing them was great. Great energy on the red carpet. I thought the panels were great. I think the real big difference this year for why I think this Star Trek Day was better than any was Tawny Newsome and Paul F. Tompkins emceeing this thing. They were so good. Really good. That's a tough job.
Yeah,
they just did a great job of streamlining it, making it funny, entertaining, keeping it fluid. I thought it was really, really great.
Yeah, it and I watched the live stream. I was not able to be there in person, and I completely agree. I thought, it is a tough job, right? Like, ultimately, you are trying to produce a event that includes multiple panels, lots of different kind of bits and asides to kind of keep things going, the need for time in between each panel to kind of reset the stage with the appropriate number of chairs and all of that stuff, and not have it run overly long, which of course last year's went behind by like 45 minutes to an hour. It ran long, whereas this one felt much snappier. Obviously there was still some production snafus. There were like blackouts on the live stream. I think that there were issues with some of the kind of bits they had to kind of truncate and maybe didn't feel as fluid as they otherwise could, because I think they did start running behind a little bit on time. But overall, when you have performers of the caliber of Tawny Newsome and Paul F. Tompkins, right, like those seams don't show in the same way as they do if it's in less capable hands. And so ultimately, I agree. I thought this was a better event last year, not least because it was only 2 hours and 20 minutes long in the end, rather than I think last year it was like almost 4 hours in total.
Oh, is that so? Last year I watched at like 3 a.m. from Russia. I was in Russia for work, so then I stayed up and watched it. It was rough, but yeah, they did. That was the key for me. They really kept it snappy. I know there's always going to be snafus, especially when we're trying to put together basically a stage show for 2.5 hours. The funny thing for me was that the red carpet always goes long, and I stayed to the very end trying to get as many people as I could on the interviews. And so I was looking at my watch and realized, it's like almost 12:20, 12:30, whenever I finally was getting off, thinking the show had already started. And I ran in there and it had, and I thought I'd already missed like at least a panel or two. And then when I checked the live stream when I got home, I'd missed like 3 minutes. So apparently I got in right. I guess it started like 15, 20 minutes late. Because I didn't see any of the actual Mary Chieffo stuff. Although they were standing right next to me, but I didn't see any of those interviews yet.
All right. Well, with that, let's turn to the week's top stories.
There's a war going on, and I'm a reporter.
Star Trek Picard led off the Star Trek Day celebration with a new trailer and a new release date. Set course for February 16th, 2023, and the debut of Star Trek Picard Season 3.
messages for Admiral Jean-Luc Picard. We need your help.
I need to find a ship. We need to find a ship. Now, I can't ask you to put yourself in danger. Since when? Jean-Luc, wherever you go, we go. Hello, beautiful. Permission to come aboard, Commander.
Permission granted, sirs. Welcome to the Titan.
Why don't you do us the honor, Commander?
Engage.
The new trailer, which gives us glimpses of all of the TNG crew back in action, beginning with Beverly Crusher, is very much an early teaser. We get little information about the plot of the season, just a better sense of the look and the vibe of what to expect. And boy, were there a lot of vibes in this trailer. They include an updated design for Space Dock, which has been enhanced in the 100 years since it was last seen in the Star Trek movie era. Commander 7 of 9 serving in some capacity aboard the USS Titan A, as Terry Matalas called it on the red carpet too, I think it was you, Jim, a Neo-Constitution class ship, clearly based on the motion picture refit design for the USS Enterprise with a 25th century twist. Beverly Crusher rocking what looked very similar to a Wrath of Khan landing party away team jacket with a Type 3 phaser rifle, but not the updated design for Star Trek Picard, the older version that we saw in the First Contact area. And lots of shots of space, more starships, TNG crew setting the tone for what Sir Patrick Stewart described in the Star Trek Day panel as a, quote, return to space. Jim, what was your reaction to the Star Trek Picard Season 3 teaser trailer?
Well, needless to say, I loved it. My biggest takeaway was seeing the ships.
Yeah,
and then
right.
Showcasing not only what looks to be like maybe Crusher's ship, which was a really cool design, but this Titan A that Terry Matalas confirmed to me is the Titan A was I really like it. I think it got a cool design. I like the angles. I've studied the trailer now and seen all the different angles. I think it looks really good. So, yeah. And the fact that they're showing us this ship, which I'm assuming is going to be at the center of it, but who knows at this point? There's going to be a lot more surprises. But that was my favorite part of the trailers.
Yeah, I mean, this was a teaser trailer designed to kind of just give you a bit of a flavor of what the season's going to be about, rather than like actually handing you plot information, right? Like, what can we possibly glean from the plot of that trailer? It's got the Titan A in it, Commander 7 of 9, and the TNG crew, and like, we already knew that, right? Like, I mean, the Titan A stuff is new information. And so it did feel very purposeful in that way, that they decided to focus so much attention on A, the ships, and B, spending so much time in space, right? Like, if you take those Star Trek Picard Season 2 trailers, those were very much focused on, this is the voyage home for Star Trek Picard. It's a return to the 21st century. You came away with a strong impression. That's where we were going to spend a lot of Star Trek Picard Season 2. You come away from the impression with this first trailer of Star Trek Picard Season 3, and also confirmed by Sir Patrick making the very pointed like comment, what's Season 3 going to be like? It's a return to space. It's like that sort of piece of, I think, to the extent that folks were disappointed with elements of Star Trek Picard Season 2, and people have a right to be disappointed with whatever elements they want to, but like, I think people who watched that first episode, The Stargazer, and then found there were then 8 subsequent episodes that took place outside of that sort of kind of 21st century Starfleet milieu, I think they're kind of indicating that these 10 episodes will largely take place within that kind of atmosphere and place. And I think that's what a lot of fans want after 2 seasons. And so it's great that they're kind of providing a way for us to get that.
Yeah, I mean, this trailer was designed to say we are in space this season. It is a space adventure. They're going off together. A group of them at some level are going off together and going to encounter the others. And it's a space adventure. And seeing Space Dock and seeing that kind of that terminology in terms of what it communicates in Star Trek says a lot. And yeah, it's obviously the counter to Picard Season 2, which I love Picard Season 2 because I'm the kind of person that you said, hey, you can watch you could get a 10-part version of Voyager's Future's End, I'd be like, yes, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what this was.
Yeah.
So, but it's a fair criticism by episode 6 to be like, we haven't been in space in literally 4 episodes. What's happening? So I get that didn't work for some people. Worked for me, but yeah, that's what this trailer was designed to do, while also showcasing all the legacy cast and some cool imagery and the Worf. One of my takeaways is there's a hand on Worf's shoulder. I'm just like, whose hand is that? Who is that?
And certainly, I mean, Terry Matalas has been telling us for probably close to a year now, has been kind of telegraphing the Star Trek movie era is his favorite era of Star Trek. And boy, does that come through in spades in this trailer, right? Like, take the Titan A, which is a fascinating starship design, sort of a mashup of a TMP refit Constitution class with a sort of 25th century starship, secondary hull and nacelles. Interestingly, there's a Star Trek fan and model builder on Twitter called Bill Krause, and supposedly, as it's come out over the last couple of days, it's actually his design. He made a model of this ship, a TNP era model, for Terry as a commission like 18 months ago. And then Terry went back to Bill and said, I really like the ship design. What if you put some 25th century nacelles on it? And we made it the main ship for season 3 of Picard. And like, that's just really cool, right? Like, there's this fan out there. He makes these incredible starship models, non-canon ones, right? Like new designs that are sort of within the kind of look and feel of that TOS movie era, and has now sort of created this design for what seems like it's going to be the main ship for Star Trek Picard season 3, though I think there's still lots of surprises and reveals in that regard to come around other ships that we might see in Picard season 3. Certainly a little something out of STLV that quickly got put back in a box that we won't talk about indicates there are maybe other ships that are going to play a role in Star Trek Picard season 3. But yeah, I mean, that seeing space dock again, right, even with its 25th century sort of enhancements, it's gained a little weight since the last time we saw it, I think, as we all have since the 1980s. And the just that collar design on the jacket that Crusher's wearing, just looking so much like the Rathacon landing party jackets. It's very much like, I think, and I expect it will all feel good and right when you watch it in context. But Terry's definitely a fan of the TOS movie era, and it shows in this trailer.
No doubt about it. He made a point to say to me, and I know he said it in some other interviews, that this is basically a whole new show, and it's basically a final TNG movie that's being presented as a 10-episode series. So yeah, and I mean, I think he posted today he's a Constitution boy or something like that. So yeah, he loves that, and that's my favorite thing about it. It's just that imagery. Just looks the whole from the front just looks like a classic Constitution class, although it doesn't go all the way around the back, which is interesting to me. So I really like the design. I like what they showcase here, and I don't think it was that surprising, though. I mean, it wasn't kind of what, if this is what I would have expected them to go with at this point. And they'll probably be radio silent now for a little bit. And at some point, my big question is are they going to reveal this villain at some point before we get to the season, or are they going to save it? And I'm guessing they probably will reveal it based on the way most of these shows work these days. That we'll know who the actor is and kind of some of the machinations happening there.
Well, we'll table that question for about 20 minutes because that's my theory for this week.
Okay.
Relates to.
Spoiled it.
But yeah, I mean, I think lots to look forward to, and I'm really enjoying the kind of vibes that we have seen thus far for Star Trek Picard season 3, and clearly a lot more on the way as we build up to now we have a definitive release date, February the 16th, 2023, when that season will drop.
Can't wait.
And in addition to a release date for Star Trek Picard Season 3, we also got a release date for the second half of Season 1 of Star Trek Prodigy, nicknamed Season 1B, and more information about what to expect from the next 10 episodes of the Delta Quadrant show. Star Trek Prodigy's mid-season premiere will share a release date with the Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3 finale, that being October 27th, 2022, only a little over a month away, and sets up 10 more episodes of fun with the Protostar gang. Star Trek Day debuted a clip from an upcoming episode, which featured a familiar face returning and the USS Dauntless facing off against the Protostar.
Whoa! I can't wait to say hi to you, Murph! and I can't wait to get out of here! Hog! The proto drive!
Way ahead of you, Captain!
Oh my.
What did you do while I was sleeping?
Oof, you're in more trouble than I am.
Don't let them get away. The real me is hunting us with a quantum slipstream Dauntless class starship? Good luck with that.
Thanks for your support. Zero! Keep up those evasive maneuvers!
Wasn't swerving on purpose, Captain.
They're hailing us.
Ooh, do not answer that hail! If we open a direct link, the living construct will infect them.
Guys, we have a development.
Yes, the voice you heard was none other than Billy Campbell. They spared no expense, finally confirming the rumors from some months ago that Thadian Okona would be making an appearance in Star Trek Prodigy in a recurring role, no less. According to the formal announcement, when Okona runs into the young, impressionable Protostar crew, he'll soon discover they are in more hot water than he is. Quote, from early on in the writers' room, we knew we wanted Captain Thadian Okona to return and become a questionable guide to our impressionable crew, said executive producers Kevin and Dan Hageman. It was so much fun to not only explore where Okona's outrageous life has taken him in his later years, but to also work with Billy Campbell, who effortlessly fell back into the role of Okona like he had never left. Paramount also released the following synopsis for the back half of Prodigy Season 1. In the remaining Star Trek Prodigy Season 1 episodes, as the hopeful crew makes their way towards Starfleet, their dreams are threatened when they discover the USS Protostar harbors a weapon designed to tear the United Federation of Planets apart. To make matters worse, the real Vice Admiral Janeway is on a manhunt for the Protostar, eager to uncover what happened to her missing former First Officer Chakotay. With these two ships on a collision course and destruction on the horizon, the fate of the Alpha Quadrant hangs in the balance. Jim, how you feeling about Season 1B of Star Trek Prodigy?
I mean, I could not be more excited about Prodigy. I loved that first season. It blew me away, especially a moral star in those last 3 or 4 episodes. So my favorite thing about, I'll get to Okona in a second. My favorite thing about the trailer was this clever reveal that I just think it's just so smart. And I think it shows exactly why Kevin and Dan Hageman are so good at this. That little plot twist of, so now they know that they're a weapon and they know they can't speak to the Federation. Otherwise it's going to harm them. And and Janeway's right on their tail and they can't just answer and ask for help. And this, when I see that, it's like, it's so smart. It's so clever, but it's also like super easy for a 6 or a 7-year-old kid or an 8-year-old kid to process and understand it. But it's still a great, interesting plot point for an adult watching. I just think that they're really, really clever on their end. And that was my favorite part of that trailer, just that setup.
Yeah, I saw somebody describe it as the next 10 episodes have a very like kids versus the adults kind of feel to them, which is obviously a far too simplistic reduction of what this story is going to be about, because they're not antagonistic on purpose. They're antagonistic, but as a byproduct of this other thing that has happened. But that is this really kind of interesting dynamic that's going to play out over the next 10 episodes. And I just love the vibe off of, sorry, I keep using the word vibe, but like Star Trek Day was a day for vibes. I'm just loving the vibe off of that clip that we got, you know, the actual Admiral Janeway, the training Captain Janeway, the Protostar crew, that sort of element of conflict, but it being constructive conflict. And, you know, ultimately, like, we know it's probably going to get resolved for the benefit of everybody. But, you know, things like, in my mind, it just plays over and over that short clip of the Dauntless kind of looming up behind the Protostar.
Yeah.
Just a great shot. And then they cut to the Dauntless bridge and it's all the kind of, you know, Federation colors and that sort of soothing elf Lorcar's button design, which you just love to see. And, if there's one thing for long-time adult Star Trek fans like you and I, and, we're bystanders in sort of who the show is for and who it's designed to please and serve. But if there's one thing coming out of those first 10 episodes, you could be a little bit like is, well, there were lots of Star Trek-y elements throughout the 10 episodes, right? And they built up the more the season went on as we were introducing this young audience to these sort of Star Trek concepts and ideas and things and ships and blah, blah, blah. And now we've sort of hit this kind of comfortable point of, yes, there's new stuff, that's very kind of Prodigy specific, but we also have Thaddeus O'Connor, and we also have Vice Admiral Janeway, and we've got the Dauntless, and all of these other kind of extremely rich kind of Star Trek backstory elements that are now going to interact with the Protostar crew. And that's just super cool. And I just keep thinking, who would, if we went back in time, let's go back in time 4 years and 3 months that would put us a month before the Patrick Stewart announcement of Star Trek Picard. And we said that. Fast forward 4 years and 3 months, and Billy Campbell would be voicing Thaddeus O'Connor on an animated Star Trek show as a recurring character. We'd
be excited about it,
and that we'd be excited about it. Exactly. And a key element to that, you would have laughed. We all would have laughed, right? And said that was ridiculous. There was no way that was going to happen. And yet here we are.
And so the O'Connor part, I mean, we haven't really talked about that yet, is that I had the good fortune to talk to Brett Gray on the red carpet. What a nice kid. So super nice kid. He teased that they're kind of getting into it together, not against each other.
Interesting, yeah.
Which I thought was great. I was like, oh, so you're you guys are kind of, they're connecting in a way where I think Dahl appreciates O'Connor's style, and obviously there's some parallels there. So I think that is going to be really cool, really interesting. And that, like you said, this show is the fact that it exists in this way, and that everybody's so excited about it. And I mean, well, listen, we actually did do that. Remember when Billy Campbell was on stage 2 or 3 years ago and just kind of offhandedly said, "Yeah, I was doing this," and everyone was like,
surely not.
Lower decks.
Yeah,
what
right.
the hell is he talking? The guy doesn't even know what show he's doing.
Right.
That's how disconnected he is.
Uh-huh.
And then you start piecing it together. You're like, I think he meant Prodigy. Is Prodigy really going to do that? Can they actually pull that off? And they have.
And they have.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think that's amazing. And then we haven't talked about, also again talking to Kevin and Dan Hageman. I asked them about the Murph kind of transmorphosis that's happening.
Yep.
And they confirmed that we're going to find out basically in the next episode this mysterious TOS connection that Murph has, which I just asked them, hey, when is this going to happen in this half of the season? Is it going to hold over? And they were like, I think it happens in the next episode. So that's what they told me. And I'm really excited about that. I've been excited about that since Aaron Wolke mentioned that on Twitter. And apparently out of all the responses, they've got hundreds of responses. One person got it right.
Yeah. But they've not said
somewhere,
who.
But they didn't say who. So it's some kind of real deep cut TOS connection that Murph has. And I cannot wait to find that out.
Yeah, it's funny to cross the streams for a second to your beloved Trek Ranks podcast. Billy Campbell and Thaddeus O'Connor are about to lose their eligibility for top 5 one-off guest stars for whenever you return to doing that topic again.
They already have, because he was in Lower Decks.
Of course he was. I think does that count though? If he wasn't in, the character was in it, but the actor never said it. Said a word.
One-off guest stars. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Characters is different than guest stars.
Yeah. Billy Campbell's a one-off guest star, right?
He would not be eligible as a character. He would be eligible as a guest star.
Yes.
But cheating is encouraged on Trek Ranks.
Yes.
So.
But he's about to not be eligible for either.
And you can still pick him. Remember, I'm the guy that picked a scene in engineering that was in a cargo bay because I was so excited about it. And went, oh, wait, as I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you say about the inclusion of a character who was a one-off guest character from a season 2 episode of The Next Generation that was not very good, now showing up as a recurring character decades later on an animated show. I mean, sometimes Star Trek doesn't surprise me at all, right? They do obvious things and pick in obvious characters and pursue those obvious strategies in obvious ways. And then there are times where I'm just like, you know what? It's a really fantastic thing that there are over 800 episodes of Star Trek. We're on our way to 900 episodes. And there's so many little ideas and characters and themes that you could pick up and pull on. And as long as you get a group of passionate people together who really care about the source material, literally anything is possible, like Thaddeus Nakona being a recurring character in Star Trek Prodigy.
And how about this segue? And how about this surprise? Carol Kane being a regular recurring cast member on Star Trek. Nothing surprised me more than that. Tig Notaro is one thing. It's Carol Kane. My mind is blown and I'm so excited.
Let's do that segue. So, hopping over to Star Trek Strange New Worlds, even though the second season of the show is still a while away, likely following on from Star Trek Picard Season 3 in May of 2023, Star Trek Day debuted a short clip for an upcoming seemingly Ortegas-focused episode of Season 2.
Pilot's personal log, stardate 1630.3. I'm Lieutenant Erica Ortegas. Most of the time, I fly the ship, which is cool, but can get boring. Today is different. Rigel 7's atmosphere is a hot mess of wind shear, exotic radiation, and heavy particles that jam the sensors on our shuttles. Piloting down takes incredible skill, which I have, but the best part? I'm with the landing party, something I almost never get to do.
Nice. You're actually wearing the hat.
You kidding? The hat is supreme. We're Kalarans now. Recon 101.
The Stakor debris field we observed previously is descending. By my calculations, it will intersect multiple points along the ship's intended orbital plane.
Debris from what?
Likely an impact between two large celestial bodies that orbited Rigel 7 several centuries ago.
Can't you just say 2 moons?
I could, but that would be leaping to a conclusion. Analysis is underway, but I would merely characterize the fragments as volatile.
We get it, Spock.
All right, well, on we go. Let's get to that shuttle bay and have ourselves a landing party.
Maintaining stability will require piloting Enterprise by hand.
Between the fragments and the gravity shifts, I'll have to make manual adjustments every 20 minutes. Or lights out Enterprise.
I'm glad you get it. We need you here keeping Enterprise safe.
Aye, Captain. But who's gonna fly the shuttle through all that choppy sky and radiation?
I may not be Eric Ortegas, but I was a test pilot, remember? We'll get you next time, I promise.
I was not responsible for the data. It would be illogical to blame.
Just learn when to leave people alone, Spock.
Sorry. I'm working on that.
And in addition to that fabulous clip, as we were just talking about, the cast of Strange New Worlds announced who would be playing the new chief engineer of the USS Enterprise, that being none other than legendary Academy Award nominee and Emmy Award winner Carol Kane. Kane will be playing Pelia, who is described as being, quote, highly educated and intelligent. This engineer suffers no fools. Pelia, not quite sure yet, solves problems calmly and brusquely thanks to her many years of experience. Well, Jim, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, obviously season 1 had a fantastic debut. We've got season 2 in the books. We just got a little look at season 1 of the episodes of season 2 and the news that Carol Kane will be the new chief engineer. Tell me more about what you're thinking about that.
Let's talk about that scene first because it was so brilliant. I mean, here's your Ortegas scene and everyone's getting excited and then they pull the rug out from under at the end of it. Just this show, man. Absolute perfect tone. I feel like that clip is in the know on fandom and really just being like, we're having fun. We're going to keep having fun.
And an amazing The Cage callback because they're heading down to Rigel 7, location of a failed away mission prior to The Cage.
Yes, and a beautiful mansion or castle, whatever that thing is.
Yes, I wondered where you were going, whether you were.
Okay, sorry. As for Carol Kane, I'm a huge fan, whether it's Princess Bride or Taxi or all the great things that she's done over the years. I'm a big fan. Taxi is one of my favorite shows of all time. So just the thought of them, and I talked to Henry Alonso Myers. I got one question with him and said, tell me, how did you cast Carol Kane? And they just brainstormed it, and somebody suggested it, and they were all like, well, there's no way she's going to want to do this. They kind of landed on it, and they reached out to her people, and she was excited and in. So it's kind of just a real clever way to bring in someone like that out who can generate excitement from a production and a out of universe way. And then obviously it's going to have so much fun for the writers to write that character and bring her into the fold. And it couldn't be more excited about it.
I mean, because in addition to releasing casting announcement, name of the character, short one sentence description of the character, we also got a picture of the character, which obviously this being an audio podcast we can't show folks, but like there's a lot of exciting stuff in that one picture, right? She's wearing a fanny pack in US parlance, bum bag in UK parlance, which like a Starfleet issue bum bag in and of itself is an incredible thing. Has cool looking jewelry. There's an extra like badge or brooch or tool right next to the Starfleet insignia. May or may not be a member of the #1, manicure fan club with the black nails rocking. We'll see if they change episode to episode like #1s do. And like it just hints at a really interesting personality that lives behind that. And I mean, let's also not kind of forget the fact that Carol Kane is 70 years old, which means that the character of Pelia, we'll find out the correct pronunciation, let's go with Pelia for now, is also a 70-year-old woman, the chief engineer of the USS Enterprise. And like, that's no small thing for Star Trek, right? I was trying to think, who else has served in a Star Trek cast in a prominent role who has been a woman, let's say over the age of even just 50, right? And if you exclude the TOS movies, the only person that I came up with was Diana Muldaur playing Catherine Pulaski over, however many series we've gotten. Well, actually, I guess probably Dawn Lewis now would also count as Captain Freeman. But like, it's not that many women over the age of 50 who've had major roles within Star Trek shows, and now Carol Kane is one of them.
Yeah, but it's not about Star Trek. It's about television or any entertainment field. And she's obviously not being cast as an elder statesman or an older person. She's going to be the chief engineer in the middle of it.
Right.
So her age is irrelevant. And the fact that they're bringing a 70-year-old actor in, and who knows how old the character will be, or even if she's human. We don't even know that. But the fact they're bringing a 70-year-old actor in to play what has to be a vibrant central character who's in the midst of activity and not just supervising and playing an elderly person. That's the big. You just never see that in entertainment. So that's a really, really cool thing. Really cool.
Yeah. After season 1, I thought it was going to take a lot for them to impress me with the new chief engineer after Hemmer and Bruce Horak's terrific performance as Hemmer. And somehow they pulled it off, right? Like,
one word they do need to make sure it's not like the same as like a Jet Reno kind of tone and thing. So they need to. I'm 100% confident based on the way these writer rooms have all worked on the new Star Trek. But I think they have to make sure there's a difference there where she's not just super brusque or just, a different version of Jet Reno.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point. But hey, I mean, they pulled it off so far. So
yeah, I mean, it couldn't be more exciting.
There is a lot to look forward to with Strange New Worlds Season 2. Well, and lastly this week, the long teased expansion of the Star Trek franchise into narrative podcasts was announced at Star Trek Day, with the first project from legendary Star Trek 2 and 6 director Nick Meyer. Originally designed for television but unable to get off the ground, Star Trek Khan SETI Alpha 5 will be a scripted podcast which will examine what happened in the years after Captain Kirk left Khan on the untamed world of SETI Alpha 5 and tells the story of Khan and his followers prior to Star Trek 2 The Wrath of Khan. Nick made the definitive Trek movie when he made Wrath, and we've all been standing in its shadow since, said Star Trek franchise boss Alex Kurtzman. 40 years have offered him a lot of perspective on these extraordinary characters characters and the way they've impacted generations of fans. Now he's come up with something as surprising, gripping, and emotional as the original, and it's a real honor to be able to let him tell the next chapter in this story exactly the way he wants to. The original story hails from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan writer and director Nicholas Meyer. Alex Kurtzman, Aaron Byers, Trevor Roth, and Rod Roddenberry will serve as executive producers on the project as well. Star Trek has twice told the story of Khan on SETI Alpha 5 in licensed tie-in works, first in a novel by Greg Cox and second in an IDW Comics miniseries, but this will be the first version directly from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan director Nick Meyer. No additional details, including expected release date, were included. Jim, how are you feeling about this expansion of Star Trek into scripted podcasts? Is this a project you're interested in?
I think I will be. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure I'll consume it the way I did No Man's Land, the audiobook they did.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what does it mean? Is this another way of saying it's an audiobook that's going to have sound effects and different characters and all the bells and whistles? Or I don't know. Is it more of a table read? I don't understand really what's being presented. I'm assuming it's going to be more than just an energetic script read, like a lot of these script reads that the groups did during the pandemic on stage to kind of stay, keep involved, like The Princess Bride or whatever.
Yeah.
Reading a script on stage. So I'm just curious what it's actually going to be. But part of me is like, I partake in the books and the comics and some of the other items in limited ways these days. I probably read 50 to 75 Star Trek books, but I don't read too many anymore. And the comics I've kind of let go as well. So I'm just curious kind of where it's going to fit in and all that, but pretty sure I'll listen to it.
Yeah, I've listened to a couple of scripted podcasts from Marvel. They did a couple which I listened to, and they were basically audio dramas, just like No Man's Land, right? Full cast, sound effects, trying to recreate the sort of the impact of
serial, like
exactly, right?
Like, which I would be thrilled if they say this is what they're emulating, then I would be really excited about that.
Trying to get you as close to watching an episode of television without the visual component, right? Like that's what those Marvel scripted podcasts tried to do. And the way that I know they like even did the recordings was they mic'd up the actors and then had the actors like not sitting in front of a microphone. They had them like acting opposite each other, and if one was sitting at a table and one was standing up, then they had a room in which they had a table and one was sitting at the table and one was standing up, right? And they were sort of acting around each other as a way of doing it. Now, who knows if they'll go to that kind of lengths for this one, but I think that's the vision behind it. I hope that's the vision behind it. That's sort of what I would want it to be. Yeah, I mean, I've never been super interested in the story of what happened to Khan between Space Seed and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, because right? He tells you within the first 5 minutes of appearing in The Wrath of Khan exactly all you need to know about what happened between the moment they were marooned on SETI Alpha 5 and the moment they meet up with Chekhov and Terrell in the opening scene of The Wrath of Khan. So I really like Greg Cox's first two Khan novels because they were about, Khan in the 1990s and the eugenics wars, and he tried to sort of fit it into real history and make it a real thing. I never bothered with the third one because I was like, I don't know, I need that story. And I never bothered with the comics for the same reason, because I was just like, I know what happens, right? His wife dies within 6 months, everything goes to crap, and then, this is where we end up. But I'll definitely give it a shot, right? I mean, in some ways, I'm kind of glad the podcast is the medium it ended up in and not television, because it doesn't feel like it's a substantial enough story to me. And the casting for Khan is really going to matter, right? Like who they pick to play that role to sort of live up to the performance of Ricardo Montalban sitting on either side of that performance, right? If you were to watch Space Seed and then listen to the podcast and then watch Star Trek 2, you'd want to feel that level of continuity between them. And honestly, I think that's easier in a podcast than it is on television to kind of create that same, impact.
I thought Nick Meyer was going to play the part. That's interesting. Yeah, I think I did the exact same thing. I read the first two Greg Cox books, but I haven't read the comic.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with you on, I think that could be a real fertile, interesting, especially with the planet exploding and kind of the things around that and how they survived and how they were living to how they ended up having to live. So I'm all about any kind of filling in the gaps, storytelling on Trek, anywhere, anytime. I don't care. I'll buy into it. So I think that's interesting. A really good point, though, about an actor having to fill that role in between those two iconic performances. That's a lot different than what any other new Trek character actor has had to do. So that would be tough, and it'll be tough even in podcast form. So.
Yeah. The only actor who really has a challenge or had a challenge close to that was Ethan Peck in Strange New Worlds. You have the Leonard Nimoy Cage performance, and then you have, Discovery that comes after and Strange New Worlds that comes after, and then you have Nimoy picking up the role again for TOS. But even that, right, it was one episode, The Cage, and everybody sort of acknowledges the characters aren't fully fleshed out, so that, there's a lot of latitude and leeway that's extended versus Montalban, who comes in and just like owns the role and knows the role and plays it exactly the same in Space Seed and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm excited about this. I'm looking forward to it. If anybody was going to tell this story and probably pique my interest in it, it was going to be Nick Meyer, because he sort of, clearly has thought a lot about this and thought a lot about the character. And, if aside from totally blanking on who wrote Space Seed, but aside from that person, right, like who else has sort of a claim towards speaking with the voice of Khan than Nick Meyer himself? So yeah, I'm excited about this and see what happens. And of course, I want it to be successful because I've always thought that audio is a really fertile medium for more Star Trek storytelling, particularly using legacy actors who you could get back for some really substantive stories who wouldn't do it because they'd have to put a bunch of makeup on if they were coming back on TV and doing live action again. So I really hope this is successful, just like I hope No Man's Land was successful. Less about the specific project itself, even though No Man's Land was excellent, and I'm hoping the same for SETI Alpha 5, but because of the prospects for what it potentially means for more.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think the format will be one of the more telling elements for me. Just kind of, I'm assuming it has to be something in that audiobook realm. But I like that what you said about the actors performing around it. That's interesting. So that was the Marvel podcast, you say?
Yeah. They did a Wolverine one, which had Richard Armitage, who played Wolverine, which was cool. It was interesting.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll see. It's new, that's for sure.
Yeah. And new is always exciting when Star Trek is concerned. Right. All right. Well, we've talked about the facts, and now let's speculate on what's going to happen in the future of Star Trek.
You make some very good points, Captain. But it's still all speculation and theory.
So each week, my guest and I give you a theory or wish we're nurturing about any of the shows or the future of the franchise. So, Jim, let's hear your theory or wish for this week.
Okay, I don't do good with theories. I just don't think that way. But wishes.
Yes. Wish me whatever you want to wish me.
I have a wish that's going to come true. I just want it to happen. I'm ready for it. I need the Strange New World season 1 soundtrack.
Yes.
This thing, Nami Melamad's music in Strange New Worlds was an absolute game changer in Trek, and the things that she did with it. And I know, I feel like we've been hearing for weeks. It's coming in weeks.
Yeah.
So it's September now. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks it's going to drop, but that's really my main wish right now is hoping that that soundtrack is in my ear holes very soon. My other wish is that I get to talk to Jess Bush every week face to face. That was not going to happen. So,
I always say I like the most outlandish theories and wishes the best. And boy, yeah, that last one is an outlandish wish.
That was not going to happen. So.
Well, we know it's being worked on, right? Nami Melamad tweeted, I think about a month ago now, that she was working on the Strange New World soundtrack, was asking her Twitter followers, which music did you like the most? Obviously, she's probably got to make some tough choices about which tracks ultimately make it onto the soundtrack. We just had the Discovery season 4 soundtrack, which was the other one we had been waiting for. That was now released, I think, like 3 weeks ago. And so if I were a betting man, I would say probably later this month, maybe next month, as sort of a time when we would expect it. We're all excited and looking forward to it. I'm excited and looking forward to it. I thought Nami Melamad did an absolutely incredible job with the music for season 1 of Strange New Worlds. It was probably, no offense, Jeff Russo, amazing composer, did a great main title sequence of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This was the first live action Star Trek music that I have heard since 2005 where I was like, this is definitively Star Trek music, right? It just had that, like, the correct kind of feel and bombast to it. And obviously Picard and Discovery were doing different things and wanted to create different tones, and the music needed to do that too. But this show being like the kind of, return to that sort of classic Star Trek Trek formula. I'm glad that the music returned to that classic Star Trek formula as well. And Nami just does such an incredible job of kind of encapsulating that in a new and interesting way at the same time that has a modern twist to it. You know, it's not just like the music of the 90s. It's not just the music of the 60s. It's the music of the 60s and the music of the 90s and the music of the 2020s, all kind of wrapped into one, which is really terrific. And yeah, I mean, I hope you get the opportunity to talk to Jeff Bush every week.
I'm going to add a third wish that Rongovian, the track about with the Rongovian ship and the end, basically at the end of Spock Amok.
Yes.
That was the one I sent her as my wish to be
Good choice. Good choice.
On the album, and I hope it is, because the music when La'an and Una are standing on the hull of the Enterprise and watching the Rongovian ship unfurl, so good. Love it.
And I'd be remiss from acknowledging that in your very first appearance on this show, which was also my very first appearance on this show, which was January of 2019, you laid odds for Star Trek Picard character appearances in which you ran down each of the TNG main cast members and a couple of the major recurring cast members, such as Q and Guinan, and ranked them in terms of likelihood that they would appear on Star Trek Picard. And over 3 seasons, all of them have. So it was a 100% hit rate.
Oh my God. I'm going to go listen to that. I'm going to go check that out after I talk to Jess Bush again.
All right, let me tell you my theory, which is, since I'm in a hey, we just did Star Trek Day, New York Comic-Con is coming up now in less than 1 month, and there will be, as we understand it, a Star Trek panel that will take place at New York Comic-Con. Now, Paramount went into San Diego Comic-Con with quite a bit to show. We've obviously just had Star Trek Day, and so that kind of indicates, well, then, what's left for New York Comic-Con. And I actually think that even though we just got a teaser trailer for Picard on Star Trek Day, 1 month from now, we're going to get a full trailer for Star Trek Picard Season 3 at New York Comic-Con, because this is really their last chance with the eyes of the entertainment world on them to do something like that before February 16th, 2023, right? There's no other San Diego Comic-Con First Contact Day kind of big event where you can debut something like that. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do that in November or December or any time you want to, but if you were looking for the thing that's probably going to make the biggest splash, where you have the most media present all at once, between now and February 16th, 2023, that's New York Comic-Con. So I think there's going to be a full trailer for Star Trek Picard Season 3, which will include more about the plot of the show. And I think I'll lay this down now, that we will either learn one of two things. Either we will learn who the villain is, right? Who this actress that Terry Matalas has wanted to work with forever, who's not a previously recurring character, has never appeared on Star Trek before, who is this sort of Khan-like villain to Star Trek Picard Season 3, or we will learn Brent Spiner's role in Star Trek Picard. I think one or the other. I don't think we get both, and I think we get the trailer. That's my theory for New York Comic-Con, which I'm laying down for now a little less than a month from now. What do you think about that?
I think that makes a lot of sense. They probably will drop a full trailer. I mean, they have everything in place. There's no reason not to have it out there. The Brent Spiner part, man, I had kind of forgotten about that. It
yeah,
didn't really
still the mystery.
Yep. Really didn't come up at all during the Star Trek Day, and obviously didn't see him in the trailer. And that's a huge mystery. That is a huge mystery. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? I hope it happens.
And nothing we have thus far seen has given us any hints about who Spiner is playing.
I mean, what's the one thing we know? Terry Matalas has said it's an old new character or a new old character. Which one?
Yeah, something like that. And it's not Adam Soong from Season 2,
right?
And that's basically all we know. Very exciting.
Could not be more exciting.
Do you have a theory or a wish for Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, or Prodigy that you'd like to share? Tweet them to me at WeeklyTrek, or email them to me at weeklytrek@thetricordertransmissions.com, and I might feature your theory in a future episode. Well, that's all the time we've got for this episode of Weekly Trek. Thank you so much to my guest, Jim Morehouse, for joining me today. Jim, how can people contact you if they want to continue the conversation?
You can find me on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra, and check out Trek Ranks if you haven't already, a podcast about all the things we love about Star Trek.
You can find this show on Twitter at WeeklyTrek and me at Alexander T. Perry. And if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. And please check out some of the other great shows on the Tricorder Transmissions. And if you like our shows, please also consider becoming a Patreon of Tricorder, which you can find at patreon.com/the-Tricorder-Transmissions. And lastly, if you're looking for Star Trek news on the internet, I hope you will turn to trekcore.com. Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you to all of my listeners. And until next week, live long and prosper.